Good afternoon, a very, very warm day. It's great to see the sun out finally. Just check you can hear me okay, Red, before I
Yes,
start.
I can hear you
Great.
fine.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Scott Allen. I work for Microsoft. I previously was the CMO for Microsoft UK, spent 5 years in the UK subsidiary leading marketing. And in the last 2 years, I have been in the team that is essentially leading the global transformation of marketing for our commercial business. Our commercial business includes products such as Microsoft 365, Surface, Azure, AI, etc., etc. So there's quite a few products that we are responsible for marketing across the teams around the world. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try and take you through the journey that we've been on over the last 4 years around transformation and how we've been transforming. And I think it's safe to say now, transformation, digital transformation is top and center of pretty much every business. And that's really because business leaders now are really starting to understand the efficiencies they can drive with digital transformation. But I think most importantly, putting the customer at the center can really start to understand how with the right digital transformation, you can deliver exceptional customer service and also products as well to go alongside that. So these stats here are just sort of hitting home the fact that digital transformation is as important as it ever has been. And we understand that some businesses are doing this really well. We work with a lot of organizations around their digital transformation, helping them digitally transform. But we also understand that for some, digital transformation is hard. It's causing tension. There are concerns about how to get it right. And an understanding that future success of the business relies on digitally transforming in the right way and investing in the right way as well. And obviously, alongside that, we have this sort of new reality, new normal that we are now living in as a result of what's happened over the last few months or so. And this new reality is really bringing home this sort of message that all of us are starting to think about remote everything. And as businesses and businesses that we're working with, they're thinking about the remote everything for their business, whether that's how they serve their customers, or also how they serve their employees as well. And here is just a few examples of what we mean by remote everything, from contactless shopping through to virtual events. Obviously, a lot of stuff is moving from in-person to virtual events. We're doing a lot of work in that area. But remote learning, I've got 3 young kids and they're now getting used to how to do remote learning in what is a new reality. So there's a lot of stuff that businesses need to think of in addition to what they were previously, and all of it has digital transformation at the heart. But let me try to sort of double click and go down into what that means for marketing. We talk a lot in Microsoft about modern marketeers, being a modern marketing organization, but also our people being modern marketeers as well. And also our sellers being modern sellers. How do they sell in a more modern way? And they embrace digital and what digital can do for them. And I'll touch on the connected sales and marketing piece as I go through the presentation. So the first thing here is that those who've heard me speak before will have seen me present this slide, and that's because nothing has changed in terms of modern marketing is all about 3 key areas: people, processes, technology, tools. And I think the biggest important thing here is that you can't be good at one without the other. You have to have all 3 of them working together, and you have to be transforming in all 3 of those areas. It's no good having great tech and tools and investing hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars or even $5,000 on a tool that essentially your people don't know how to use, or they don't understand the value of it. I often refer to, it's like buying my mum an iPhone and she only uses 5% of the functionality. We have to make sure our people understand what those tools are going to do and how it's going to help them in their daily role. We also need to make sure that if we are going to advance our people skills and our modern marketeer skills along with our tech, we don't have processes that were 5-10 years old, because otherwise we're going to fall down when we try to implement. So people, processes, technology, tools is something that you'll hear me talk a lot about as being important, working together. And then what does that mean for CMOs and marketing teams and people who are in those marketing teams? Well, quite simply, I think transformation is awesome. It's great. It's really enjoyable being an organization that is transforming at the pace that Microsoft is. but it's really hard, and it is really hard. And marketing teams are struggling to adjust to what the modern marketing imperatives are. And you can see on the right-hand side, there's just an example of some of the things now that marketing teams have to try to understand and be good at. I call it the art and the science. It is really now marketing teams need to be built up of that art and that science. Previously, marketing teams were very much more in the art side, very creative, awesome at running campaigns, knew how to land those campaigns, and were able to measure them to some sort of degree. But we didn't have the science bit as part of the marketing team. And I talk a lot now about when you're hiring, I'll touch on it on a later slide, having that mix of art and science in your team, and then working very well together. Because we've really evolved on as marketeers what we need to do. It's no good now just creating content and posting it out there. We have to be storytellers. We have to understand why we are creating a piece of content and will it resonate. It's noisy out there. So we have to have people on our team who understand content, understand storytelling, understand then what channels and destinations that content needs to go in to get the right impact. Are our social media channels working how we want them to do? It's no good just using a social media channel just to pump content out. You have to treat those channels as communities, build those communities up, get other people sharing your content, bringing them on the journey as well. So our social team has to be community builders, community managers, not just content publishers. Events, obviously landing in-person events has been really important, but with what's happened in the last sort of 2 or 3 months and how we've really shifted to digital, how we now are moving to virtual events. And it's not a case of just copying the in-person event and doing it digitally. You'll lose people if you try to copy an in-person experience versus a digital one. So again, storytelling and connection of that story and how you deliver the content digitally versus in person has to be thought of. So having people that understand the experiential side of events. And then on the science side, really one of the big things there is understanding how you tie your marketing impact to the financial metrics that your organization has, but understanding what the MarTech landscape is out there and what tools you really need versus what tools somebody is trying to sell you. It can get very, very busy out there in terms of this tool for this and this tool for that. So understanding how you can have less tools, but the tools you do have, they're all integrated together. And with Microsoft, we work very hard on doing that with our customers. And then I'm going to sort of go down now into what have we been doing over the last sort of 4 years or so as we've evolved on our digital transformation. I think this slide gives a really good view of how we used to run marketing before we started this digital transformation 4 years ago. And this slide is a very simplistic way of showing what we were up to. In this world, before we moved on our digital transformation, we had marketing teams across headquarters, but also in the field. And we have 14 regions around the world, so 14 marketing teams around the world, all headed up by a CMO. We had all of them basically building numerous discrete programs. And a few of these programs were connected, but a lot of them weren't. So you'd have the field team running local events, but then you'd have the corporate team running flagship events. And we weren't connecting together who was coming to the flagship events, who was coming to the local events. So essentially, we had all of these essentially disconnected, discrete programs happening where, as a customer, you could quite easily be emailed by Microsoft 2 or 3 times in a week if you were to engage with us in 3 different ways, maybe twice at an event, 2 different events, or a piece of content. And we never connected that together. So we had to think about how we could essentially not create thousands of individual funnels as we were creating, but how we started to think about one customer journey and treating the customer of understanding that they may touch us many times with different marketing activities, but we understand each time we touch them because we essentially had a program in place that was able to connect that. And in this world, you can see we essentially did all the marketing activity on the left. We then said that one activity equaled 1 lead, and we essentially then just passed that off to sales. So you often had sellers getting what we called leads from us, and really they weren't. They were somebody that had come to our event stand, and we said you should call them because they came to our stand and talked to us for 5 minutes. That isn't a lead. And we know in a multi-touch, multi-attribution world that actually when a customer is won, there's a whole bunch of things that's happened with that customer in the run up to them signing the contract, both from what marketing has been doing, but also what the partner team has been doing and our partners, and also the sales team as well. So we wanted to sort of move away from this sort of lots of discrete programs and not a single platform capturing the customer signals. And that's really what moved us to saying we have to do marketing differently, and digital transformation is going to be at the front of that. And that essentially was all anchored around the customer. We've got what we call the free clouds, Microsoft Azure, Dynamics 365, and Microsoft 365, which contains, you know, all of our products that we've got. And essentially, we wanted to make sure that just because somebody might be interested in Microsoft Azure and Dynamics at the same time, that we brought that journey together, and we didn't have them running on two individual customer journeys because they weren't connected. So we talked about everything has to be about the customer at the center. And I know a lot of organizations talk about customer centricity, but we really are doing this in Microsoft, not just in marketing, but everything we do, the products we build, how we're thinking about diversity and inclusion, how we're ensuring that we've got the right accessibility for our products. We're thinking about all the time how our customer is at the heart of everything we do, and marketing is no different. So with that sort of principle of the customer at the center, we moved to this central slide. We set up something called the Global Demand Center, the GDC. That's who I work for today. Think of the GDC as being the transformation engine for Microsoft for our commercial business. Our job is to globally transform the marketing that we are doing in Microsoft. I think what you can see here essentially is we joined things up, but we really brought into the center of this machine learning and AI, and that's what you can see in the center. So if we go left to right, essentially what this slide is telling us is that we have marketing activities that are now joined up. So when the field do marketing activities like events or demand gen or campaigns, and corporate is doing activity, they all work as one. And that's really, really important. So we now know that if somebody comes to a local event or a corporate event, they are the same customer, and we treat them in the same journey, so we understand what they're interested in and what they're not. We've sorted out how we do paid media, so we haven't got local paid media and corporate paid media. We've joined that together so that we're not cannibalizing our paid media investment. We essentially are joining up all of our digital assets and our digital journeys, and we do that via what we call global engagement programs, GEPs, and that's what you can see there, GEPs. We have GEPs that are assigned to products. We have GEPs that are assigned to specific industries if a customer is industry centric before they want to buy a product. And we also have account-based marketing GEPs, and I will touch on GEPs in a moment of what they are in a little bit more detail. And then what we do is, because we now have one platform that we are working off and we have the customer journey joined up, we're able to then use AI and machine learning to really understand when is the right time to pass a lead off to a sales channel, whether that's directly to our website, whether that's our Microsoft store, if they're more an S in an SMB category, inside sales, so our telesales teams around the world, and obviously our field sales and our partners as well. And we're not getting humans doing the lead scoring here. We've got the machine doing it. The machine is deciding when is the right time to pass that lead over to a particular seller or a particular channel. And then to the far right, we don't stop there. Once we've sold the product to the customer, we make sure that we are giving them the right customer service afterwards. And that's what when we talk about relationship marketing and the post-purchase journey that they go on as well, so that they are using our product and they are consuming it. They're not just buying it from us. So this is a massive shift, and this is what we've been doing over the last 4 years, essentially bringing our field and corporate marketing together, but importantly, digital is at the heart of it and what we're doing, right from the data platform through to how we then pass off to our different channels. And then what that does is essentially we have been these 1 to 4 at the bottom of the slide here. We essentially now, as a GDC, we are leading obviously the global marketing transformation, but we're now starting to empower our sellers to have the right opportunities at the right time. The same for our partner network. And we're able now to be much more results driven, but not just results driven for our own purposes in marketing. Hey, aren't we doing really well? Results driven related to the business results that we are expected to help deliver against. Revenue, new customers, using our customers, repeat purchases, and new products being upsold to customers. So we are very, very aligned now to what the business objectives are, not just marketing being loosely connected to it. And that's what this slide is trying to say, is that customer, again, is at the heart of it, at the left-hand side. We have the GDC that does their programs, and we do the effective programs capturing those customer signals. And because we can capture those signals, we're able then to use AI machine learning to pass over the right recommendations at the right time to either sellers or partners, leading then to help and contribute to business results. And really the message here is that this is very hard and it takes time. And I understand that we're Microsoft and we are a big organization, but I think this actually is a really good testament to if a huge organization can change the way that they were doing things, because we had a lot of stuff that was embedded into the company that were years old, and we've had to sort of undo that. It's easier to do it if you are a startup company and you are thinking for the first time how to do this. We've had to do a lot of undoing. We call it unlearning, undoing of things that we had in place. So we've started over there on the left-hand side. I'm not going to read all the text out here. You'll see the slides after, but essentially, we started small. We started with just a couple of products. We looked at some of it was system-based, some of it was manual-based, about how we did lead scoring, but also how we connected the customer journey and how we passed that over to our sellers. And to start with, this was more vendor-based demand response organizations, so third-party tele agencies, essentially. And we started that journey into the build, scale, vNext. And what we've done is year on year, we've moved from multiple platforms to a single platform. We've brought our field marketing teams along on the journey. We've looked at the type of people that we need in the organization and the skills that we need. So we've helped develop our teams on. We've hired different types of people. And that's allowed us to move into scale model that you can see there in the middle. And we are now shifted over to what we're calling this vNext. And we've got lots of new initiatives that we're thinking of as we move over the next year or so. So again, really, this is just to say it's hard. You have to build the journey out one by one. It's not something that you're going to do overnight, and we're nowhere near done yet, and we're already 4 years into that journey. And then I said I would touch on global engagement programs, and essentially, global engagement program is really this sort of notion of let's try to build stuff once that we can use across the world. So a globally scaled approach, and try to have our campaigns and being consistent how we run them around the world, the right messaging, similar content, and then we can obviously top the content up with local case studies and local stories and local nuances, but ultimately we're building something from the HQ that can be used around the world, and that's what the globally scaled piece means. And then sort of go with this sort of notion of content built once and then implemented globally through the 14 marketing teams, and essentially then ensure that all the signals we get from people engaging with our content all come back into one platform, one data platform that allows us to see what the customer is doing and then serve those insights up. And I'll show you how we serve the insights up shortly. And really, this slide helps sort of bring the gap to life of how it works. So if you have a look at through 1 to 6, essentially what we're saying is that we've joined up the front our paid media approach, our organic web approach, how we amplify stuff over social. So if we're promoting an event, if we're promoting a piece of content, if we're trying to get people to engage with us, we would do that via our paid media, our web, and our social, essentially. That's the sort of the 3 key ways of doing it. And what we're doing is then we are pushing them to a relevant piece of content or a relevant event or webinar or a relevant campaign that we're running in the field. And you can see there just an example of, in the screenshots there, of some of the things, there's an ebook there, there's an event invite, etc. But what we're doing is we're having gated content, and the gated content means that we are capturing those customer details once. We are ensuring that we get all of the right opt-in from them so that we are compliant. And essentially, because we know what they first engaged with, we will put them into the appropriate gap. So if I went and I was interested in Microsoft Azure migration, I would go into the Microsoft Azure migration gap, and I would just get content coming through to me or be invited to events related to Azure migration. I wouldn't get all the other emails inviting me to events that weren't relevant to me. If I then started to engage more, the more I engage, the more, now that we have everything on one platform, we're able to serve the next piece of content or event invite up to the particular person who's engaging with us based on the behaviors that they're doing, based on the interaction that they're having. And that then will allow us to do one of a few things. It might say we invite them to do a trial, and we push them for a trial. They want to trial maybe M365, or they want to trial Azure. That might be one thing. We might say that they are already a hot lead because they've done enough with us. The machine has told us we need to pass into sales immediately. Or we might just need to continue nurturing them. They're not quite yet ready to be contacted. They've done some stuff with us, but not enough to be contacted. So we will keep them in the nurture journey. And we've got tools that we use to be able to tell our sellers and our marketeers where someone is in the journey and if they're ready to be contacted yet. And then obviously, once we get into they've purchased from us, we've got a whole bunch of things that we do around post-purchase and how we help them adopt our products and use our services. So that might be if they've bought M365, tips and tricks are sent to them via mail, how to use Office, how to use it effectively, the best ways to use PowerPoint, etc., etc. So we have a post-event or a post-sale nurture that we take them through as well. So the GEP and the Global Engagement Program is really, really important because what it does is it's essentially the collection of all the content, all of the events, all of the marketing activities that we're doing, all aligned to either an industry, to a theme like digital transformation if they're not ready to buy products, or if they're at a product interest stage, there are GEPs that are aligned to the particular products that we sell. And we have around 30 GEPs or so, and depending on what you do with us and what you sign up to, is the GEP that you go into. So, and this is all possible to do because we've started with that people, processes, tools, principle, and we've got the customer journey now all coming through one platform, and we're able then to ensure that we're giving that right experience to the particular customer. And what that's also allowed us to do then is to bring other programs and put them on top of the platform that we've now built. And I'll talk through ABM. Obviously, there are many types of account-based marketing that you can do. There's the one-to-one account-based marketing, one-to-few, maybe one to a bunch of industry customers that you might want to market to. Here, I'm talking specifically around we've really programmatized what we call Programmatic ABM. And that's where we're able now to essentially use our digital transformation and what we now have in place to understand which customers to target for which products, and also what paid media to invest in as well. And that's really what this slide is showing here, is that we start with target accounts. We look at the different products we've got, we do some analysis on what are the right accounts that we should be targeting for a particular product. Once we've identified who those accounts are, we then structure a marketing campaign around those accounts. So it might be, go back to the Azure migration example, we might have identified around the world, I don't know, 5,000 accounts. Those 5,000 accounts we think have the propensity to buy from us Azure migration in the future. We then would focus our campaign, our paid media, our web content, our event invites, etc., all around those particular accounts. And we would use our platforms, our marketing automation to take them on that journey. And then the machine will continue to do the scoring modeling. So it will look at the interaction that customer's been having with us. And it will get to a stage where the machine will say, hey, in this account, we've seen this many interactions by this many people. We think these people should be called. They're at the right time to call. They look like they're interested in having a further conversation. Or the customer might self-select and say, please contact me, and they will fill a contact me form out. That goes straight to our sellers, and they will call them immediately to an SLA that we have in place. And that allows then for us to essentially make sure that we're targeting the right content, the right marketing activity to the right types of customers at the right time. And that allows us then to follow up with those customers when they want to be followed up by us, not when we think they do, because they've engaged with one piece of content. So ABM is becoming very programmatic, and it's allowed us to make sure we are investing in the right content, but also the right paid media as well. The other thing that we worked really hard on is events. I mean, we're all, as marketeers, we all do a lot of events around either in country or around different countries around the world. And we were starting to get feedback from different parts of the business that, engineering was saying when we were doing sort of very technical events, we had inconsistent messaging and experiences. I'd go to an event in London and the same event in Singapore would be different. Why? It should be the same messaging, just with slight tweaks around local sort of stories and any maybe local nuances like legal rules, or there might be something related to government policies, etc. We also had our marketeers saying, I don't know how to measure the success events. We had finance saying, we spend a lot of money on events. How effective are they really? And then we had our sellers really questioning, do we need to do as many events as we need to? And what events really should I be inviting my customers to? So we had a lot of sort of feedback in the company that we could do events better. So again, as the GDC, as we transform our marketing, we said, now that we have the right approach in place about the customer journey, how could we overlay an events program on top so that we become more consistent? And that's really what our commercial event framework is all about. It's really about saying, how do we get from the left-hand side to the right-hand side? How do we stop having imbalanced geographical distribution of our events versus our competitors? So we had a lot of US-centric events, but we weren't doing enough in Australia or in Dubai or in Hong Kong. So we were looking at, we need to make sure that we are having the right events around the world based on the demand that we're getting. How do we make sure that we have that really good mix of deeper technical events versus more business orientated events that maybe marketeers, CEOs, finance people want to come to? But most importantly, how do we have a single event framework that everybody works to, rather than everybody having their own event strategy and across all the countries that we've got around the world? And we have 130 plus countries around the world across those 14 regions that I talked about. So that's where we came up with the commercial event framework, which essentially looks like this. We call it the avocado model. And what it essentially is, it's in four bucket areas. We've got corp first party events. That's run by Microsoft HQ. Oops, so just go back on the slide. We have corp first party events led by Microsoft HQ. We have corp third party events that's led by Microsoft HQ. That's where we go to third party events run by other event companies. So that could be industry events. Oh, for some reason my slide keeps changing. And then we have local required events. That's local events that are done by the teams around the world. So local events that are done in country. And then local programmatic events. Sorry, it keeps changing for some reason. I'm just going to keep it like that for now. And then we have local required and we have local programmed events. And essentially what we've done is we've brought consistency about how those events work. And what we've done is we've said, if you go to a Azure Fundamentals event in London, it should look the same as a Azure Fundamentals event in Australia. And when a customer registers for that event, we will all use the same registration tools and the same tech for that. And they would all come into the same database so that we're able to then to take them on the right journey that they need to. So we are building consistency around how the event looks, the content in the event, but also how the registration for the event happens, and also how the post-event nurture happens as well in that particular event. And that's really important as well, is that we've got consistency of how we have got them into our journey in the right way so that the customer has the right journey, but also how they get the right experience no matter where they attend the event in the world. So again, the commercial event framework piece has really allowed us to essentially be much more consistent. That means that we're investing in less events, we're being more consistent about the events that we do, we're giving much better guidance to the field about what events to focus on and what events that they probably don't need to. It allows our marketeers to have a much more engaged conversation with our sellers about not just doing an event because we can, but also using the data that we're getting from the event attendance to talk to the sellers about what events have been successful and which ones have been less successful so that we can improve as we go on. So just a couple of examples there, ABM and commercial event framework of how we can now lay programs on top because we've started on this digital transformation journey, which started with the tech, the tools, the platform, through to the right processes, and then obviously helping skill our people to ensure that they can run in a more modern, efficient marketing way. The other thing that we've worked quite hard on is around what we call accessibility, and everyone's working on accessibility. And with Microsoft, we have what we call Microsoft Accessibility Standards, MAS, and we essentially are thinking about accessibility in everything we do. The products we build, we think about accessibility from the first bit of code that we start writing for a particular product. When we scope out what the product should look like, we are thinking about accessibility up front. And there's no different for marketing. We've worked really hard on making sure that we have brought accessibility into the marketing that we do. That's across websites, the social channels that we run, events, both in person and digital, webinars, etc., and the email and the newsletters we do as well. And again, this slide, I'm not going to sort of drain it in terms of all the text on there, but it gives you a nice sort of overview on what the goal was in terms of our accessibility initiative for websites, content, social content, in-person and webinars on the event side, and emails and newsletters, but also some of the work we did as well. Take websites. We did an inventory, and we found that in 2019 we had around 618 websites that weren't what we would call Microsoft Accessible compliant, and therefore we closed them down or we improved them, so that now all of our sites that we run around the world all align to the Microsoft accessibility standards. And that's really important to ensure that we don't have any websites that run that don't apply to the MAS standards that we have. And we now have, looking forward, we have an ongoing website scans. We're always checking to see if any websites are popping up from around the world that aren't accessible or shouldn't have popped up. And we're making sure that we are having all of our new websites aligning to the Microsoft accessibility standards. And the same applies as you go through social events, email and newsletters. And you can see there, it's not just about what we've done in terms of making things accessible, it's also about things that we've stopped. We have thousands of non-compliant YouTube videos, for example. We've either fixed those or we've closed them down. So all of our videos we now do have captioning on them. That wasn't the case before we started to go on this sort of accessibility journey. If we have a look at, as we go into things like webinars, we essentially retired a lot of webinars that we'd done previously, and they were on demand. We retired them because they weren't compliant and we didn't need to go and re-record them. But we now know that every webinar we run will again align to the Microsoft accessibility standards. And there's a whole list of things that comes in those standards, which I'm happy to share offline. And this doesn't stop. Accessibility is ingrained to us within Microsoft as being absolutely key to everything we do, and marketing is no different. So the next thing I wanted to touch on was, because we now have all of the right platform, the right processes in place, we're able to capture all of the customer signals that we've now are getting from our customers when they engage from us from a marketing standpoint, whether that's them downloading content, coming to an event, taking a trial out, raising their hand and saying, please contact me. We're able then to, on top, start to get much more marketing insights driven. We're really big in Microsoft in our marketeers being insights driven, not just analytical. Not everybody has depth of analytical skills that you need, but every marketeer should be able to look at some data that's been served up to them and try to translate those into insights, so interpret them. So our marketeers are being much more insights driven. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things of where we've done this to sort of bring it to life. So the first thing is, we've gone with, on the terms of really bringing our people along on the journey, we've started to really educate around how we've evolved our, essentially our marketing metrics from the far left, where we had sort of static marketing metrics. We would describe what had happened previously. So we were great at looking back. We run this event. This is how good this event was. This is how many people came. We posted this piece of content. This is how many likes we got. Etc., etc. And we've started to move to the right-hand side. The first bit that we've really worked hard on over the last 12, 18 months is what we call predictive outcome metrics. And I'm going to talk to you in a moment about marketing engagement index, because that's been a real game changer for our marketeers, where you can start to now see insights from our customer engagement with us from a marketing standpoint, and start to use those insights to predict what we do next. It informs us to make our next best action decision. And we are now shifting much more to the right-hand side, where we're starting to do something called engagement pattern matching, where we will be able to use the data we've got from the signals we've captured from our customers. We can start to automatically suggest actions to our marketeers that would help drive a specific outcome, winning a customer, driving more revenue up in a customer with a product that they've already bought from us, etc. And by suggesting the right action for them to do with that customer based on where we feel they are on the journey with us. And that really moves then to sort of the right-hand side, where we could start to use these analytics, these insights, to forecast future dollars from the motions that we're doing today, and really get a deeper understanding about what are the right things we should be doing moving forward versus what we should just stop because they're not working. So we're sort of at about point 3, the engagement pattern matching piece. What I wanted to do was talk about the work we've done around the predictive side and marketing engagement index. I think, as I've sort of highlighted during the course of this presentation, we've started our marketing and data insights journey at the data platform piece. One platform, one database, one marketing automation system. Whenever we capture a customer signal, it all comes into this one data platform. That wasn't the case previously. We'd have lots of data platforms that were all working independently. So therefore, a customer could quite easily have 6 or 7 journeys operating with us at the same time. By having one platform, we're able now to get marketing intelligence, ops intelligence, business intelligence, customer intelligence. We can pull out the right intelligence for the right audience. Finance will ask for this. Marketing will ask for this. Our engineering teams will ask for this. Our sellers will ask for this. We're now able to try and answer some of the things that our sellers, our finance teams, our leadership teams, our marketeers are asking for, because we have everything grounded on this one platform that we've built. And by having that, we really are now in a mode in Microsoft where we are essentially driving up a very, very strong insights function within the business, but also we are getting way more strategic around what we should be doing from a marketing perspective. Let me just touch on that with something called Marketing Engagement Index. So we've created something called Marketing Engagement Index, which essentially is a Power BI dashboard. So it's a Microsoft product. There are alternative dashboards out there, but we use Power BI. And what it does is, because we have all of that data, all of those customer signals in our platform, we're able to very easily serve up to our marketeers via a dashboard exactly what is going on in one account or a group of accounts. So what I mean by that is that I could pick one of our large banking customers around the world, and I'm able to go and drill down exactly what content they've been downloading, which events they've come to, how many people have come to those events, have any of them done a trial with us. I'm really able to build a picture up about the account all up, but individual contacts in that account as well. And I'm able to see how engaged they are with us, and we sort of rank them. They're either highly engaged because they've been doing a lot of stuff with us. We've had lots of contacts doing lots of things. They could be engaged, which is sort of the one under that, or they could also be low engaged or not engaged at all. And what this does is it allows our marketeers to start to think about what to do with single accounts, but groups of accounts. Those that are highly engaged, but maybe we don't have enough pipeline, there's an opportunity to speak to the sellers about, this is what's happening in your account. These are the types of content being downloaded. These are the themes. These are the conversations we think are happening in your account based on the marketing activity they're doing. A really good example of that, we've been able to sort of unearth CMO teams in our customers attending events and downloading content around Azure that we wouldn't thought they would do. But what it did is it helped us build a picture of the marketing team were getting involved in some decision making around frontline workers and how to better serve the frontline workers in their particular company. Now, the IT department would normally lead that, and they probably still were, but we unearthed that there were other people, other contacts, other job roles in the customer who were also going to be contributing to the decision. And that allowed the seller not just to focus on the current contacts they had, but also on some new contacts in that account. So MEI is really great at telling you what interaction is happening, how many people we are reaching in an account, how many accounts we are reaching, and then we give it a very simple ranking based on machine learning of highly engaged, engaged, low engaged, or none. And this is what we then can do as a result of that. This is a fake customer because we don't want to give any PII data away or be uncompliant, but this gives you the sort of idea of what we can now get around a particular customer. So this particular view here, you can get this view within Power BI within 15 seconds. I'm able to go in, type the customer name, and it will tell me all of the interactions that have been happening within that customer. You can double click if you want to, but here for Contoso, the customer here, we can straight away see that 642 contacts have interacted with us. Some of them have interacted more than once because we've got 742 interactions. But most importantly, we can see which products they're engaged with. So for this particular customer, they're very highly engaged with our modern workplace product, which is M365, but they're not so engaged with Surface. So maybe we need to do a little bit more work on the Surface piece. But we can start to see in the customer who is interacting. For this example, we can see that there are 50% of the people interacting are actually executive and C-level, which could be quite interesting to the seller, and also maybe quite surprising to the seller. What we're finding when we talk to our sellers is they're understanding that there are people engaging in the account that they don't even know. So this is serving them up the opportunity to have more conversations with more people. We're also able to get the themes that are coming out from an account. So for this example, we can see that Contoso are very big on compliance and security, and therefore we should be talking to them about how we can help them with their compliance and security needs. And we can also tell them then how many technical people are also involved in the account as well. So we've got obviously the business side engaged, but what about the technical side? Because a lot of organizations will make decisions where the technical people are advising, and we call it the bottoms up versus the tops down. Sometimes an exec or C-level will make the decisions immediately, or they will be getting advised from their teams underneath them. And this allows you to see not just what's been going on and the themes, etc., but it also shows that there's been a lot of activity in this account over a whole 12-month period. And it also spikes up the most effective pieces of marketing that the marketing team has done. Everything from, there's a build modern managing compliance, that's an ebook, for example. There's another ebook there, 4 Secrets to a Connected Workplace. We can see that there's some events in there where you can see the little people heads. That's saying that they came to the M365 technical series, which is one of our commercial event framework events. So we're able to really show in the account activities that the customer is doing, but also what is the most popular activity. And you can also then see what activity drives the most spike. So Ignite the Tour Sydney, which is one of our big technical events that we run around the world, and this particular one was in Sydney, that drove over 250 contacts in one hit from that account. That's pretty huge. And it's able then to really start seeing where the spikes are and where they're not. And also you can see where the green is here. That's when we won the customer. They bought M365 from us. But again, you can still see that after they bought from us, the customer's still engaging with us. But they're engaging with different types of content related to how to use M365 and some of the features that are in there. But also it hits home that the customer journey doesn't stop when they bought the product as well. And again, because of the transformation we've been on, we're able to serve this insight up for every single one of our managed customers around the world. The final couple of slides on this is what the dashboard looks like. So you can go into Power BI, it will tell you immediately for our product on the left-hand side, how engaged customers are around the world, or in a particular region or in a particular country, how many people have been engaging with us. You can also see very quickly how you're performing against some of the other countries. So if I was in the UK team, I'd be saying, hey, we see that Australia are also performing really well. Let's go and do some sharing with them. And we see a lot of best practice sharing going on where particular countries see other regions and what they're doing, and then going and sort of sharing ideas and thinking as well. So it's helped really with that connected marketing with different teams around the world. Dashboard also helps you have a look very easily at what activities are being engaged with. So here, this is globally, but for all of the managed customers we have around the world, we can see that trials are very popular, Power BI trials here, content is really popular. And what you can do is you can click on these. So if I clicked on content, it would tell me what are the most popular pieces of content globally. And therefore I'm able to then see which content maybe I should be reusing, which content I might maybe be retiring because it's not quite working for me. And the dashboard will also serve up, most importantly, how engaged your customers are. So you look on the left-hand side, I can look at Bucknell University, and we're not that engaged with them, especially across Azure, Dynamics, Power Apps, and Surface. More work needs to be done there. We need to do more marketing to that particular customer. But it looks like we've done a really good job on someone like Carolina Biological Supply Company. They're highly engaged in a lot of our products. That means we've got a lot of people already interacting with our content, coming to events, or have taken out trials. So there's a different conversation the seller would need to be having there, because we've already got the engagement. We just need to try and get more pipeline or close the deal with that particular customer. Whereas if they're lowly engaged, marketing needs to take it upon themselves to do more. So this is where we can get to. This is where we've got to, because we've really started on that digital transformation journey. And this is not exclusive to big companies like Microsoft. Any organization can do what I'm showing here if they get their digital transformation strategy correct. And then the final couple of slides is really around the people bit. I talked a little bit about it's important that you look at processes, tech tools, but also the people piece as well. We do a lot of work with our marketing teams to make sure that they're coming with us on the modern marketing journey. Lots of coaching, lots of support. We ensure that we are running many calls with them to ensure that they understand where we're going, how we can help them. And we're making sure that we really bring on that journey. And even from a CMO leader perspective, we've really looked at our leadership team from a marketing perspective and the teams within them, moving from this left-hand side where a marketing leader, 2-3 years ago, they had to be really connected with sales. They had to understand digital and events, experiential as we call it. They had to understand branding, and they had to obviously recruit really good talent. But actually now, a marketing leader and marketing teams need to be way more on the right-hand side. They need to be not a talent recruiter, a talent developer. They need to understand the tech and the data side, the insights bit, the bit that I've just talked to you about. They need to be really on top of the customer experience bit and really understand what is a really good customer experience. They need to work more closer with other teams in the business to ensure that customer experience isn't just marketing here and then another team doing it over here. It's joining it all together. And they need to have a real growth mindset. They need to think about how to evolve. How do I bring my leadership team with me on the journey? And the one big thing I'd say with the digital transformation we've been on, the reason that we've been able to do it is because our leadership team, our CMO, Chris Capicella, really buys into the transformation that we need to go on with the customer at the heart. And Chris has been an absolute inspirational leader in helping us drive this. And we have my bosses, I've got 2 bosses who are awesome leaders in terms of bringing that down to what does marketing transformation look like and how do we then evolve that. And I'm lucky enough to be in the team that is thinking about what are the next things we are going to do as part of this transformation. And that leads to sort of the last slide, which is this, back to this part scientific, part creative. The types of people we now hire within our marketing teams look much more like this. We've got the part creative, but again, back to the social engagement piece. It used to be you could join a social media team and just post content. Now you need to understand how social engagement works. How does social listening work? How are you building communities? It's a different type of role than it was 2-3 years ago. Event experiences. It used to be somebody who was great at just organizing an event. Now it's somebody who can really start from the beginning and go, what is going to be the experience, especially as we move into a more digital world? How do I deliver the best digital experience? Because it's going to be very different to an in-person event experience. And then on the left-hand side, we're hiring more people who understand, investable models and the revenue accountability and how we plug everything we do from marketing back to the business and the revenue that we have to drive in the business and the other objectives that we're driving in the business. We have people who are much more tech orientated. The tech stack is evolving. You have to have people in marketing who understand the tech stack and are able to help drive what we need to do next. And obviously, everybody needs to have data and analytics built into them. We obviously have people who are dedicated to that, and they're like our sort of scientific orientated D&I leads, the data and insights leads. But we also would expect our marketing campaign managers to also understand data analytics as well. And obviously, it's no good talking about connected sales and marketing now. We actually have to do it. And by what we've built, that's been a lot easier because we now have more insight, more opportunity to connect with sellers and also help them with what they need to do. The days have gone where a seller knowing just the right 5 people in an account is going to get you to win. We know that people engage with our content, with our events, with other stuff that we're doing without even talking to the seller. Now we know it because we can show them. And that's where I brought MEI in. That's an example of really now being able to get insight and take it to a seller and talk about what the next steps are. So connected sales and marketing has become a really key part of that. And then that was my final slide. So hopefully I realise there's a lot there, but hopefully this has really helped you understand the journey that we've been on. It's been a long 4 years in terms of we've tried stuff, they haven't quite worked. We've tried other stuff that have worked, we've then scaled them out. But we really, this sort of notion of having a globally connected sales globally connected marketing engine that works as one is really what it's all about. And we're making sure now that we don't have any marketing teams around the world who are doing their own thing, not connected to what we're doing. And that's a big shift as well, to bring all those teams together. And that's where the people bit becomes really important, and the leadership alongside it. So hopefully that's been useful. And if there's any questions immediately, I'm happy to take them.
Thanks so much, Scott. That was really interesting. If you have questions, there's a couple of thanks messages coming through. If you do have any questions, pop them into the chat area. The recording, as Scott has put up there, will be made available on that blog post. It'll probably be tomorrow morning once we've downloaded it and edited it. It'll be made available there for you to access. If anyone has any questions, please just pop them into the chat area. There's a question here saying, you've given a great overview of the customer and the company lens. What about a competitor perspective? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. What I would say there is that I get to do this presentation to quite a lot of customers around the world, and I would say that there are different organisations are at different levels. I think if you go down into competitors, yes, we're a tech company, so you'd expect us to sort of be leading the way in some of the things that we're doing, absolutely. So yes, our competitors are also on this same journey as us, and we've got lots of different competitors depending on the product we've done. So I would say that tech companies are generally doing this really well. If you think that you are way behind on your journey, what you've seen today, don't worry, because I speak to a lot of other non-tech companies, non-competitive companies, who are still figuring this stuff out as well. Not all of them are small, medium-sized companies. Some of them are pretty huge. I got to present a few months ago at a banking conference, and I had a lot of good conversations on the back of it with some quite big banks around where they are on the journey and what they need to do next as well. So sure, tech companies are doing it well. I think that we really are leading the way alongside a couple of other tech companies, but others are still thinking and trying to catch up. And that's why I'm trying to share our story as much as possible, so that people can start to take little bits of it. You won't want to do all of this at once, but hopefully there are some nuggets there where you go, I need to do that better, or I need to do that better.
I don't think there are any other questions for the moment. Any more for any questions? Okay, I think we'll leave that there. Thank you everyone for attending today, and thank you again, Scott. It's really interesting, and we're very lucky to have Scott able to present for us. So we're really grateful, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
So everyone, have a lovely afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.